Morning campers, Johnny Matthew here. Welcome again to the TK live stream, number 2, no less. So I hope you can hear me okay. There's 3 of you on so far. Just let me know you're here. Get in the chat. Hi Kerry, hope you're okay. I'm doing all right. Thanks for your communication this week. Interesting that. A lot of people dealing with kids going back to school, I have absolutely no doubt. So we'll probably get into that a little bit later on. Anyway, here we are. Thanks for being here. I just wanted to start by giving you a few stats because we had a good time last week, I think. And I was delighted. We had 135 people on at the high point. Now, it's hard for me because I can't always be keeping my eye on the live stream bit. So I'm not always totally sure how many people are on, but I noticed 135 at one point. There were more than 100 on nearly all the way through. Hi, Harry. Good to see you. Hi, Tammy. Hi, Rad. Good to see you, mate. Kev. How you doing, man? Ellie, Sasha, Jay, Joe. Good to see you. So I was delighted with that. And despite a kind of a bit of an initial struggle with YouTube, I managed to upload the video, and I mean more than 300 people have seen that as well. So that's particularly pleasing that it wasn't, just people who could get in on the live stream, but other people were able to catch up as well. And so far, up until about 10 minutes ago, I stopped because I can only do so many things at once. There are 553 people who've joined the Trouble Kids group in the last 10 days or so. So that's amazing. I'm delighted about that. So we're well over 1,000 members in the group now, which is fab. So I'm really just hoping that's going to continue to be useful. There's a lot of expertise here from a really wide range of people. And I noticed that there's been a few pages, social care pages and pages of kind of people, groups of people who are interested in working with Trouble Kids who've also joined the group. So if that's you, welcome. Delighted to have you here. If you've missed it live, then feel free to join us on YouTube. And remember to subscribe. Great that, isn't it? So remember to subscribe because then you'll get the alert when further videos go up and things like that. So please chip in, guys. I'm really keen for you to be involved and for it, because there's a lot more expertise than there is in my head. So really keen for you guys to chip in. So who's on? Erica, hi. Sean, Matthew, Sarah, hi. Yasmin, Tallulah from Mid and West Wales. Good to see you. Okay, welcome again, Yvonne, Gaynor, Bex. Fantastic. I'm glad you like the book, Kev. Kev just jumping on the chat there to say that he liked the Harry the Hound book. I'm coming to that in a minute because I've had my copy. So looking forward to having a run through that. Anyway, there's a few of you here, 55 in, 57 in, more people popping in all the time. So before we go any further, theme tune. What a hoot that is. I love that. Yeah, I don't know. There's something about a bit of rock guitar that really cheers me up. So I've actually been playing that. I've struggled this week. I don't know about you. I've been an extra week in lockdown. So this is my 9th week now because of the asthma and stuff. We're not taking any chances. So I've really kind of had enough of sitting in front of this computer, I have to say. Although, generally speaking, I've been loving it. But so I've had all kinds of trouble. My shoulders are really stiff and stuff. So a quick theme tune is quite a nice thing because it cheers me up. So I've been playing that a bit in the week. It's more about the guitar than anything else. And I did say last week that I've got a theme tune. I've been making a lot of videos for the TRM Academy, making a self-care course which will be out in a few weeks. But so I've kind of done a little GIF for them as well. So, and I said last week, I tried to play it last week and I couldn't because I hadn't set it up on my Stream Deck. But let me play this. This is a TRM theme tune. It's a little bit more proper and a bit more posh and a little bit less juvenile guitar-y. So let me play this. Hang on, get a load of this. It's a bit less juvenile, isn't it? A bit more grown up. But there we are. So who've we got on? Lynn, hi. Louise. Pam, Harper, hi. Pam, really glad you like the book. That's fab. Samantha, Holiday, hi from Devon. Fantastic. Lynn. Kev Murphy from NWG. Great to see you on, man. Oh, I had a text from somebody this week who said they'd been talking to you. So thanks for the recommendation. Really appreciate that. Okay, so I want to get into it a little bit. So posts from this week. There's a couple of things that that I want to focus on here. Anita Scott. Thank you, Anita, for putting a note in the comments. Anita said, I'm having a little difficulty working out what all the abbreviations stand for. And I'm wondering if it'd be possible to add a file or something where we could go to see what they mean. Thank you for the video chat. It was inspiring. Lovely. Well, thank you for that. I'm really glad you enjoyed it. So, in seeking to kind of help, which is really what this is all about, I've done you, well, and everybody else, Anita, a little a file. Hi, Hannah. Hi, Minnie. Good to see you. So I'm just gonna let's put the Mac up. So that's the stream screen. Here we go. Where is it? There we are. So if you go to, I should say, let me put this on first. If you go to this web address, johnnymatthew.com/toolkit, that will take you to this page, which is just a page on my website. It's a free page. There's no kind of charging or anything. And you'll see here, I've put a new line in here. It's called Freedom from Acronym Hell. I was really grateful for Anita pointing this out because, we get into our work speak and it's quite excluding really for people who don't understand. I mean, it's a couple of years ago I started working in the health service in the forensic mental health team. I just do a day a week there, and it was like having to learn a completely different language because these guys are nearly all medics and or psychologists, and they have a different language. So I'm really grateful for Anita pointing this out. So if you go onto this page and you'll see here it says professional childcare, like most professions, is rife with acronyms. So for those less familiar with them, there's a little glossary to help you. So if you this big pink button here, if you click that, it opens up to a file, he says, hopefully, there we are, which I've put together this week with just some of the common ones in. So I really hope that's going to help you, Anita, and of course anybody else who needs it. So I think there's about 24, 25 different things on there that kind of came to mind. But please have a look at that, guys, because I'm sure that I will have missed stuff there, and please put them in the comments or email me or whatever. Let me know. I'll put the bump back up so you can see the email address and stuff down there, because we're keen to make this as accessible as we can. So thank you to Anita for pointing that out. That was the first thing. As I say, you can find that on the toolkit page of my website. And then I want to get back to Harry the Hound. So this was, you'll recall, this was a book that was sent to me by, well, I became aware of it from Neil Davies, one of the authors, and I know Wendy Steer as well, who wrote the book, and it's a fab little book, and I've had my copy. Hey! So there we go. So I just thought I'm going to run through it, and I've written a blog post on this. I'll show you that in a minute. But it's a cracking little book. If I sit back a bit, you might be able to see it. So it's in A4 format. It's got a lovely matte cover, and you've got this brilliant graphic on the front of Harry the Hound. I think it's superb. And what I didn't realise was that this is a rhyming story. So it's great. It's great for little kids. It's great for older kids who maybe struggle a bit with their learning. It'd certainly be good for even for teenagers with learning disabilities, learning difficulties, and so on, and cognitive impairments of various kinds. The language is very simple and accessible, but the rhyming is great, because you guys will know the rhyming is really helpful for language acquisition, word anticipation, and all that kind of stuff. So that's how it's written in a rhyming format, and you'll be able to see here. It talks about Harry the Hound. He's usually very cool, but suddenly he's feeling nervous about returning back to school. Because of coronavirus, he's been off school for ages. Although he wants to go back, his nerves and worries are causing rages. And there's these lovely graphics. This is his mum. I mean, they've done a brilliant job of making a dog look like a mum. I mean, even out of context, if you didn't know the story, you'd look at that dog and say, that dog is somebody's mum. Definitely. It's brilliant. So mum really wants to help him getting ready to learn, because he usually loves school, being able to return. And it goes on. And she goes through helping Harry to the point where he can return to school. And then you'll notice at the back here, there are worksheets. These are brilliantly photocopyable, very clear. The pages are very fold-backable, if that's a word. So there's safety plan. There's a feelings page here with different feelings, a bit of blank space. What you can do, talk to someone, do some art exercise or whatever. There's an anxiety safety plan there. Grounding techniques. These are really good. Jam jar exercise to help kids gather together the positives about school. Loads of really good worksheets, so absolutely recommend that. I'll put a link in the description again. There's a link in the description from last week's video if you look at it on YouTube. But I've written a quick summary to capture this just in case you guys wanted to go somewhere else. So let me just nip back over onto the website. So this is on my website. There's a link to the blog. But if you just go to the blog, it's the latest blog post, and you'll see Harry's smiling face there. And it's really good. It's a really cracking good little book. And I know Pam and I think it was Cornwall North Devon Carers, and a few other people have said that they've really enjoyed it. The other good thing about that is that the worksheets, there's a link in the book that you can go to, and the worksheets are downloadable. Obviously, I don't want to put that on here because I want to encourage people to buy the book. But it's a lovely, lovely, colourful, accessible, short, rhyming, beautifully illustrated book with some worksheets. I mean, what more could you want? And those worksheets are very adaptable. I mean, if you're like me and you practice, you probably nick and plagiarise all kinds of stuff because that's how we learn and grow, and that's particularly how we target what we do to specific children. So there we go. Link in the description to the blog post if you want to read that. But it's so easy to read. I mean, it'll take you less than 5 minutes. Fab little resource. So let's have a look. Harry's saying it's great, folks. Sent out to our staff this week. Brilliant. Hi Mel from Plymouth. Hi Emma. The web page again tries to find it. Toolkit. If you go to johnnymatthew.com/toolkit, that's where you'll get the acronyms stuff. And if you just go to johnnymatthew.com/blog, I imagine, or just go to the .com page, choose the blog, and you'll see the Harry the Hound blog post is just there. Kerry's saying she shared the book with her group. That's brilliant. Thank you, Kerry, for reposting the website. That's fab. So there we go, Harry the Hound. I mean, I can't... Neil and Wendy are just people who I respect and know very experienced. So please get onto that and support their work. Just to say, actually, even though the book mentions coronavirus, and clearly it's targeted at kids who there'll be anxiety about having time off and returning to school, I was struck that really this book has got utility for kids who are absent from school for any kind of reason. It might be a long illness, or it may be they're returning to school, but they're returning to a new school because of a house move, a relocation, placement change. or whatever it might be. So just to say, I think that it only mentions coronavirus once on page 2. The rest of the book doesn't mention it. So I think if you're creative, you can easily use this book in an ongoing way. It'd be really sad if you just had a limited market. So anyway, there we are. I just think you guys, being creative types, will be able to get real good mileage out of it. So there we go. Okay, so let's look at a couple of questions. Now, as always, with the questions stuff, we need to kind of, obviously, if you're posting questions, just a reminder, there's a lot of people who'll be new to the group. If you're posting questions, please don't include kids' names or identifiable information. And obviously what we're doing is chatting here, and I'm giving my opinion, which is not only fallible and partial. It's not based on any assessment or anything. So this doesn't replace professional help. If you need professional help with one of your kids or a child you're caring for or working with, please go and get the professional help. Derek's saying, quick question, please. Any suggestions? Why did a 4 and 5-year-old in foster care spend the first 6 weeks of lockdown playing babies? They seem to have stopped now. Good question, Derek. I'm going to come on to that because I think that's a really good question. I think the short answer is that when kids are stressed, and sometimes if that tips over into distress, they will revert to behaviours that are atypical for their age, but are more normal for kids who are much younger, and for them at a younger stage of their development. So if their development's been problematic and they face real stress, they may revert to behaviours that were problematic for them when they were younger. But if it isn't problematic, their development's been fine, when kids are particularly stressed, they may revert and regress and show behaviour traits that are more typical of younger children. I think it's something about the need for security and so on. But we'll come back to that. Hi, Caroline. Great to see you. Thanks for being on. Okay, question from Sophie. This is Sophie Walters. So Sophie's saying, I work with the TRM in our work environment with young people. We identify the tier of support needs when they first move in, and then we use the TRM to help us with support plans and get those in place and so on, and we help them work up the tiers. Now here's the question: in relation to the TRM, is a young person able to move up a tier if they haven't achieved everything in the tier that they are on? It's a really good question and a really sensible question. So I'm going to open the schematic here. Bear with me. I'm going to open the TRM. Let you guys have a look at this. I guess one of the things that we stress on the trauma recovery model practitioner training, 3-day training that we do, is this idea that development and behavior that we see in a child doesn't change exponentially in a kind of unstoppable forward momentum in a kind of linear fashion. That doesn't happen for any of us. Change tends not to happen in a kind of straightforward, inexorable kind of way, does it? If you think about the last time you made a New Year's resolution and you wanted to change, to do more exercise or get on a diet or whatever it might be, you probably didn't change instantly. But what you might do over a period of years is slowly get more healthy and more develop better exercise regimes or whatever it might be. If we change at all, we tend to change slowly. That's the first thing, I think. And the other thing, back to Derek's question, is that we, all of us, but children, troubled kids in particular, will tend to revert when something violates their sense of normality and stability and safety and so on. So one of the things we talk about on the training is two bits to say here, really. I think, first of all, even though the diagram is split into these kind of really clear kind of layers, where, so for this blue layer at the right, in the blue itself, this is the bit where we're observing what's going on for the child. On the right here is the kind of underlying need. You can see that at the top of the diagram, the underlying need here is what's driving the presentation that's in the triangle. So trust building, they're starting to smile more, they're getting better relationships. You get some ongoing confrontation, maybe difficulties with peer relationships, increased engagement in routines, that kind of stuff. So the need here is to continue to develop those trusting relationships, maintain that routine, develop a secure base, all that kind of stuff. And then over on the left hand side here, the intervention kind of type, the kind of ballpark for the intervention needs to focus on maximum one-to-one time, that kind of thing. So you get these layers. Now they can be really useful, and I find this infinite. I know I was part of writing it, but I mean I use it all the time. But one of the things that we need to, so that's the first thing. One of the things we need to be mindful of, though, is that some kids, we may assess them as being kind of here. They're kind of halfway in between the blue and the yellow, for example. They don't sit nicely in one. And I think that's normal and that's okay. So it might be that they're in the yellow. It's quite unstable and chaotic. There's a lot of challenge and that kind of stuff going on. But actually, they've got a little bit of a strong relationship here with this person, this family member, this professional, whomever it might be, or they've got a friendship over here that's really keen, a football team or whatever it might be. So they're mainly in the yellow, but actually they've got an element of blue creeping in. So I think we need to keep the sense of assessment flexible across domains and across these layers, rather. So that we don't try and slot kids into boxes. They'll, generally speaking, fit mainly into one, but nearly always there'll be elements of another as well. So that's the first thing. The second thing, I think, to answer specifically Sophie's question is the idea that, and we pull this out on the training, that kids will make progress and then something can happen and they'll slip down again. So they may, for example, have made good progress over a number of weeks and months and find themselves here in this more cognitive phase. They're more aware of how they're doing. They've got a more balanced sense of who they are. Things are clearer in terms of what the past meant and what their future possibilities are. They're in that kind of in-between integration stage. But something may happen. Boyfriend may finish with them. Parent may go into crisis. Somebody may die. They may commit an offence and get arrested again. There may be, I think there can be any number of changes that will happen. And what we'll find then is that this child will move down and you'll see a regression to earlier type behaviours. Similar to Derek's question with the younger kids, that you'll find that will happen. The children who are well beyond baby stage will start to play babies again. They'll start to talk like babies again, start to use simplified language. They may, even if they're very distressed, spend a lot of time in fetal position. They might start sucking their thumbs again. And you get teenage equivalents of that. You get teenagers who've been doing okay and doing some good work with professionals and carers, or maybe even parents, at a more cognitive level, but actually then something will happen and they'll slip down. And it's that need for safety, it's that reassurance. And I think in terms of Sophie's question, that people make progress. If you look at the box on the screen, people make progress rather than it being a nice inexorable move up to here. What they tend to do is move up and they jitter about a bit, but the overall direction of travel is a slow creep in the right direction. And I think it's really important to kind of get our heads around that. Now that's the case in terms of how we train people to use the TRM, but I'm just going to flick over and show you these slides. Now this is some child development stuff that I do sometimes when I'm training, just to look at these models. So look at Abraham Maslow's model. This was I think the paper was called The Organization of Human Behavior, but we typically refer it to the hierarchy of needs or hierarchy of human needs. And you can see again here that it's a layered approach and the same principle stands. And you can see looking over my shoulder, you can see the TRM and that we flagrantly nicked the pyramid idea, but actually it probably wasn't his idea anyway. You look at Piaget stuff here, stages of cognitive development. Again, there's that stepped approach. Freud, this is top down, but it's the same principle. It's that move through the psychosexual stages. Erickson, psychosocial development. Again, they've put it in the kind of stepped format, but you notice the steps overlap. And even though the little fella here is looking at the green phase, he's actually opposite two green phases, but he's stood on the blue. So he's not completely moved on from the blue yet, but he's starting to address these other stages. And the same goes for Lawrence Kohlberg's moral development. Again, you see the same idea. So development does unfold in order. I think that's important, but it doesn't unfold inexorably upwards without hesitation. And sometimes you get real quick drop back off. And that's normal. So it's not to be worried about. The challenge that we've found in handling that is that we've found that what we've done is moved when the child has been up here, say, and something's happened and they've dropped down. It can take a little while for us to twig that they've dropped down. So we're still actually applying these interventions up here because previously this is where the child was. The child was in the green sort of phase and we were responsive and flexible to that and here. But as soon as the child is down here at the bottom of the triangle again, we need to come over to this side and make sure we adjust what we do. The name of the game is to try not to worry too much about what the child is behaving like and where and what they're doing. Clearly that's important, but the key question is, what do they need from me now that they're in that particular place developmentally? Because and we encourage people to talk about it being a blip. This is a blip. And to talk to kids about it's fine. We all have these little blips, these little hiccups where we get a bit worried and we don't feel very safe, or something happens that we don't know how to handle because it hasn't happened before. And we feel a bit uncertain about that. And so we behave differently, and that's okay. And to kind of make that something that is okay for the children. But in our heads, the key thing in terms of assessment, intervention planning, and what we actually say and do with kids is to ask the question, what does this child need from me? And again, it's going back and saying, if they've dropped down to a lower stage, I need to read across from where they are and change what I do. And what we found, the complex youth justice cases with teenagers, kids with learning disabilities, and with younger children, is that as soon as we adjust what we're doing to what the child needs, you get congruence again, and you can support that upward movement. And actually, often very quickly, depends on the severity of what it is that's caused the regression, but often very quickly kids will revert to a much more positive state. So there we go. And that's not a model specific thing to the TRM. That's everything. Hi Bernie, no need to apologise. Hope you enjoyed your walk. Harry saying level 3 working through trauma will see a return to those lower levels. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So there's I need to show you that again. So if a child is on level 3 here, they're working through their trauma. There's two bits with this. When you work through trauma, you necessarily, for some of the time at least, are thinking about it, maybe talking to someone about it. It's more present and aware than it may have been before you were actively working through it. So if you have a child or a young person who's working through, there's two bits. They'll be more aware of it anyway because they're working through it. And you get sometimes, often, you get a return to difficult behaviours, and you'll see in the TRM there it says a return to difficult behaviours as trauma is processed. And even though they're at this stage, you may get behaviours like it, and it says they're being clingy or being rejecting. You get a return to that angry, aggressive stuff sometimes, which is more what you get a younger stage of development, terrible twosy type stuff, or little children who are sort of verbal but still slightly pre-verbal, you get all that anxiety and that crossness that comes out. You'll get a return to it because they're processing trauma anyway. But also that can feel really unsafe, which can kind of give rise to behaviours that are more typical at a lower level. So yes, that's absolutely what you get, Harry. Thanks for the question. It's a really good question. Kerry's just saying, will this model be relevant for kids who haven't experienced obvious trauma, whose behaviours have been changed through COVID? Yeah, I think so, Kerry. We called it a trauma recovery model more by mistake than anything, to be honest, because we were dealing with very traumatised kids. And so we called it that. We actually were thinking about calling it something else, but it's the TRM now and it's stuck and there's nothing we can do about it. But it is a people model. It's not a justice model, which is a misconception some people have. And it's a people model, not a child model. It's about human development, and it's about mapping the general trajectory of development, but mapping onto that what it looks like when development goes wrong through abuse or trauma and all that kind of stuff. So I hope that's useful. You're welcome, Sophie. I'm glad that's useful. It's about changing what we do to match what the child needs. Hi, Pete and Denise from NPT. Thanks for being on. So thank you for that. Next question from Hannah Blewett. I'd like some of you guys in the chat to just bang out some responses to this, and let's see how that goes. So I'm going to give you the question. Here's the question. What are the best ways to try and reach out to young people currently in lockdown? What are the best ways to reach out to young people currently in lockdown? And Hannah is asking specifically to get safety messages across, but maybe we can address that generally. Best ways to reach out to people currently. I'm just going to have a quick sip of my coffee because I got a bit dry. What do you think about that, folks? Get on the chat and let's have a look. Best ways to reach out to people. What we got? Jane, no need to apologise for being late. Story of my life. Lynn, seeing lots of regressed behaviour currently. Joe saying talking with play. Definitely, that's possible. I don't know your setting, Han, but I'm wondering whether you may not have kids present, so that might be more difficult. Kerry saying texting messages, of course, to young people. Sometimes they can be more responsive than face-to-face. Absolutely right, Kerry. I've certainly found that. Contacting through WhatsApp can be useful. Using Zoom, our charity, Pam says. Use tech and social media, Kev. Vicky's saying finding good old-fashioned letters are working. Do you know what? That's true. I don't know if I can twist this around. Maybe this will be a technological disaster. But if I can twist this around, you see this here. This is my... I had an old photocopier. I put we've got a village Facebook page, and I put a thing out on the Facebook page saying anybody got an old not photocopier, typewriter, an old typewriter they don't want. And a chap down the road said, I've got one. So, and I've been writing letters on a typewriter, sending them to people, just people I think who need cheering up. I mean, I've always written little notes. I'm an obsessive note writer, just to say, just thinking about you, hope you're okay, and encouraging people and stuff. That's just me. But I've been writing letters just because it pleases me to use a typewriter. So absolutely right. Couldn't agree with that. So I couldn't agree more with that. Mini Hat saying text and Skype. Find that being visible so you can see facial expressions is working for some of them. I think that's right. Texting being useful. I first personally come across a couple of situations where I've actually had better communication just talking on the phone, just voice. I think probably some kids are different, so maybe just try it all. Sandra's saying give reassurance, routine, talking, art, games. Make sure you share your love, absolutely. Social media, particularly Messenger, extremely useful. Bernie's saying been trying to motivate my 12-year-old to complete work. Bought her a book. I know she wants to read. A bit of bribery. Absolutely. Oh, bribery is just a principal tool in the arsenal of any parent, isn't it? Letters and WhatsApp. Kev saying Seen this when missing children return home interviews. Children respond with tech rather than face-to-face. I do some supervision of a couple of guys who are involved in doing return home interviews when they've been missing, and they're saying the same, that actually kids are more responsive, some kids more responsive to tech. More of the kids, actually, generally, are more responsive to tech contacts rather than someone turning up at the house to do a return to home interview. I mean, the whole return to home interview thing is fascinating because it's better than police doing it generally because of that whole authority thing. That actually somebody coming to your house to talk to you about why you went missing when you've just been missing is really quite difficult and a bit clumsy. Worth doing it if you can. But I think if we can use slightly removed means, phone calls, social media contacts, text, even face-to-face on Zoom and Skype, WhatsApp, Google Live or Hangouts or whatever, then do it. Lovely. Being consistent and reassuring, Adele is saying. It's difficult, but texting, calls, letter writing. Yeah, absolutely. Well-being packs delivered by hand. Absolutely. I've been doing that sort of stuff. I mean, just little things. I know you guys may not be able to get out and about, and you have to be careful with the rules, but I think you are frontline people, a lot of you, and I make a lot of bread. I bake bread quite a lot, and I've been making bread, putting it in carry bags, and going and hanging it on people's front door. So I'll do a trip once every couple of days and just go to a couple of people, friends and neighbours, and just put a fresh baked loaf of bread on their door. There's something about delivering something by hand that you had somebody in mind, you were thinking about them. It's lovely. So go with that. Okay, I'm going to move on. Thank you guys. Some brilliant comments there. Nick saying plan practical activities. Yeah, let them know that we're all in this together. It's scary for everybody. Yes. Steve. Hi Steve. Hi Laura. Chance of a book since work are miserable and won't buy you any. I don't know what that means. I know you'll be having a bit of fun with that, mate. So anyway, there we are. Okay, next question. So thank you, Hannah, for that. There was a second part to Hannah's question, which Pam also was asking. Pam Harper was asking about what are your thoughts on how children, young people, will phase back into education. What impact will it have on their behaviour, getting back into routine and structured environment? Also in communities, will we see increase of antisocial behaviour? Oh gosh, I mean, there's a gazillion things. I mean, absolutely. Phase back into education. I think that's absolutely worth a look. I'd expect some kids to show a reaction to this because it's change, getting back into a different routine. It's interesting. We've been into it for 2 months now, and that kind of 2-month time period is the sort of time when, just as human beings, we become habituated to new ways of being. So actually, I think it's going to be more difficult for all of us than we think, and obviously for kids who need structure and struggle without it, who maybe just got used to a new structure, it's going to upend things again. I would recommend, wherever possible, a phased return for some kids, and it's about trying to make some kind of assessment about whether we can do that, whether putting kids straight back into school day one, all kids. I think that might be a struggle. There's some lovely practical stuff in the Harry the Hound book about, when a child is about to maybe be going back into school, a couple of days or a few days before, take a trip in the car and just drive past the school and just be there for a few minutes, sit outside, have a look at the building, talk about how that makes them feel. Spend some time going over the uniform, get them to try it on. Does it still fit? What do we need to do and change? There's some sort of preparations we need to do to make that okay. Just having it in consciousness, but not imminent, is really quite important to kind of phase that reintroduction. Steve, you guys will find this in Scotland with the kids coming back on courses. You'd probably be better doing a day or a couple of days or a morning or a couple of mornings a week rather than going straight back into it, because that's going to be difficult. I did have a really interesting conversation with a psychologist from a school in Devon. It's a privately run school, but they take kids who are very troubled kids, and local authority fund a lot of the placements, and they've been back in school for a couple of weeks now because it's very small numbers. They got 9 classes, I believe, 3 school sites, 9 classes, so very small group, about 45 kids in total. So 3, 4, 5 kids in the class. And what they've found is really fascinating is that the kids have come back in. The teachers have been much more relaxed rather than being on the timetable and the routine. Much more relaxed. And whilst they've had an agenda for the direction for the class or the lesson, they've been more open and allowed kids to talk. They've talked to kids about, well, how would you like to do this? What, how are you feeling would be nice to address this particular subject or whatever. And what the teachers have been feeding back, and I can't tell you how satisfying and lovely this is. What the teachers have been feeding back is things like, what I've been doing is saying to the kids, this is the subject matter, how would you like to address it? And they've come back with some really good ideas. They've got ownership of how we're doing it. They're very focused, and the level of work we're getting is fantastic. So they're now actively looking at how they can change their approach to teaching based on greater participation and allowing the child's voice to speak more loudly. So I think that's what we need to do in the run-up. I think we're probably going to need to do some of that in schools as well, though that may not be for most of us to look at. I'm going to look at, just on this for Hannah and Pam's benefit, but anybody else who's dealing with this, when I come to the website in a minute, I'm going to look at the a little resource that might be useful to you there. Last question from Matt Nichols. Hi Matt, but down in Swanwick Lodge, Secure Children's Home. And he's saying, how best to support children leaving your care and entering a very uncertain world? I mean, absolutely. I mean, it's uncertain because of all the COVID nonsense that's going on, but it's uncertain anyway, I think, when you've been in a place where you've needed to be in secure care, either to serve a sentence or for welfare reasons, and now you're going back into the community. That's hard enough, but a community in COVID crisis is going to be doubly difficult. I've got 3 really quick thoughts on this, and I know you'll know this, Matt, but I'm going to just quickly run through them. So this could apply for change of placement. It can apply for moving house. It can apply for changing school, a new routine, a new partner entering the household. It can anything. Big change, I think it's going to. First thing is plan ahead. Absolutely plan ahead. That is really important. As soon as you know that a change needs to happen. So in a secure environment, as soon as a child comes in, you know they're going to need to leave, and you pretty well know what that date is likely to be. I know it's more tricky for you guys with children on welfare orders, where you may get a renewing of the order, but you're looking at probably 6 months max anyway. So I think plan ahead. As soon as kids are in, the professional group around them needs to be planning for change and for resettlement. That's really important. I mean, and I would, first planning meeting in Secure when I was kind of running interventions would be, what's the release plan going to be? What do we think? Is home an option? Is there somewhere else? What's the procurement process for the local authority? Get on and make that happen. So plan ahead. Secondly, smooth transitions is really important. Now, it depends what the change is, but long tail endings are really important. So just as we were saying about getting back into education, plan ahead, exposed to building, uniform, putting the bag together, pencil case, anything that brings to mind and brings into consciousness the upcoming change will help kids. So do that as far as placement change is concerned, absolutely. But also make it long tail. Make it a part of the conversation that there's change coming, but not yet. And what we find is, it's counterintuitive. You think, if I talk about change, is that going to unsettle them? Well, there's a danger that it might, but I think if we do it well and we do it early and we do it often, it probably won't. Children differ, and we need to be careful around that. If there's been a lot of change done badly, we may need to rethink it. But for most kids, planning ahead and long tail endings. We've really encouraged this in youth justice and in some of the childcare work, that we don't do anything abruptly, particularly back off and end our involvement in a case. That needs to be long tail endings. So plan ahead, smooth transitions with long tail endings. And then lastly, which I think we miss, is if we can follow up afterwards. That's really important. So I think in a secure setting, doing a check-in, you may already do this, Matt, I don't know. If you've got somebody with resettlement responsibilities who's been involved with that transition, if they can check in, if you've got a key worker who can just check in, it might just be a phone call a couple of weeks after, it might be a month down the line, maybe the child's first birthday after, just ping them a text or send them a note just saying, we're just thinking about you, hope you're okay out there and it's all going okay. I think that follow-up is key, and it sends some lovely positive messages about belonging and being thought of. So that's fab. So plan ahead, smooth transitions, follow up afterwards is really important. So there we go. I'm not going to do any more questions. Please put your questions in the chat, though, guys. That is so useful to me. I want to address the things in as much as I can that will help you. Mart Jones saying I've set exercise challenges with some of the pupils that they have to do daily. I complete the challenge too, so for one moment in the day they're connected to me by virtue of a shared task. Great. My daughter actually had some feedback from her maths teacher yesterday. It's really funny. It was really good feedback just to her and two of the kids in class, so 3 of them all together. And he was just saying, I've looked at Annie and so-and-so. I've looked at the work you've done. Thank you for that. It's really good. Between you, you've done 32 exercises. You've got on average 78%. You're doing really well. Thank you for that. You could think about changing this and this and this and doing a bit more of that. But get back to me when you've done a load more. It's great to see you working. And she was over the moon with it. And he did that lovely kind of praise, correction, praise sandwich thing that was lovely. So I'm sure that works, Mark. Just having that connection. Loads of people buying the books. I'm really glad for you. Please get on and buy it because it's fab. All right. Lovely. So, lastly, sort of, is a quick website recommendation. And this feeds a little bit into the question earlier that Pam Harper and Hannah Blewett were asking, and it feeds into the education thing. So the website this week is Beacon House. Now, Beacon House, is, as far as I know, is a private setup. They provide therapeutic services and things. I've never come across anybody from there, but I really like their stuff. They spend a lot of money on artwork and good materials. So let me get them on screen. Here we go. Beaconhouse.org.uk. Again, link in the description. And if you go up to this menu bit, top right hand corner here, the little 3 lines, and you drop down to this bit here, resources, and click on that. All these bits here are services they provide. You want to buy a session, you can. But these are services for client service users, patients, and so on. But the resources here are fab. So click on that, and it takes you through here, and there's some lovely stuff on their trauma specialists. So there's some great stuff in. I like this. Developmental trauma diagrams. You just click on that, try and enlarge that slightly. So you just see this. It's just looking about how trauma influences kids from a brain development point of view, and obviously that feeds into our understanding of behaviour. So you've got brainstem stuff here. You've got limbic stuff here. So that's about emotional regulation. Attachment based things, and what it does, it gives you the kind of behaviors and the presentations that you're going to see, so you can look at that, a bit like the TRM stuff. And then up here you've got the cortical brain, that higher brain stuff, self-esteem, dissociation, and cognitive problems. So that's really useful. I'm just going to flick back because I want to show you something in relation to, if you look down here, brainstem CAMHS here. And this is just talking about, so they use Bruce Perry's NMT, sequential model of therapeutics, which is fab. Love it, look at it a lot. I really like it. But they're looking at brainstem CAMHS, and what I like about this is, so it depends on the setting. So if you need to calming kids down, these are activities, walking, dancing, and it's split up into individual and group stuff. So you could do this virtually with children and young people, drumming, tapping, singing, breathing, movement, rocking chair, that kind of stuff, and music. So there's some really, really useful, and the website is laden with this kind of stuff. So I'd recommend you have a look at that. That's Beacon House. Just a big shout out for them, because I hop on their stuff quite regularly just to see what they've got going on. So that's that. Let me get back onto the stream page so I can see what you guys are saying. Fantastic. There we go. So now then, the last thing just to say again, if you are watching this on YouTube, please remember Hey! Please remember to subscribe because it means you'll get notification, and it also makes it easier for me getting the streaming stuff on there if there are more subscribers. So that will be handy. I will put that up hopefully by the end of this afternoon for people. So in terms of content, that's it. But I did say last week that I'm going to give a book away. So I've got it here now. This is my book, and it's my working copy. So I'm not. I'll get. There's a new one up there. So I'll give you the new one. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you about 20 seconds. That if you haven't had the book and you would like it, in the comments, I'd like you to just type the word me, M-E, me. Okay. So I'm going to give you 20 seconds. If you would like the book, type me in the comments, and then I'm just going to scroll through at random, pick one, and send you the book. Right? So if you crack on and do that, I'm just going to wait here for 20 seconds, having deep thoughts, while you put me on. I'll just say hello to a few people. Hi, Leanne, Palmer Gaynor. Hi. Hi, Lynn. Hi, Lisa Davis. Hope you're okay, lass. I'm doing okay. Hi, Yvonne. Who else we got on? Tammy. Hi, Nicola. Jackie. Great to have you. Right, so I don't know whether that was 20 seconds or not, but it's near enough. So I am going to, let me think, how many have we got on? Right, the me is closed. So I'm just going to spin down now and shut my eyes and land on one. Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Who have I got? Kevin Murphy. You've got it already, haven't you, mate? Have you got the book, Kev? I'm assuming you have. I'm sure you have. Excellent book, Johnny. We'll fully recommend. Right. Okay. So I'm going to do it again. 3, 2, 1. Go. That one. Andrea. Okay. Andrea Stimpson. If you're still on, which I hope you are, if you email me, Andrea, your address, email me. It's mail@johnnymatthew.com. It's coming up on the ticker now. There you go. mail@johnnymatthew.com. I will send you the book. Well done, Andrea. I'm just going to write that down so that I don't forget your name, so I can look out for that in my email. Brilliant. There we go. Now, next week, I'm going to give away my Harry the Hound book because I'm not spending much time in direct practice these days, and my kids are older. Well, Griff's 20, so I'm not going to give it to him. So I'm going to give away Harry the Hound next week. So thanks for being on, everyone. 88, 90 people on, I think, at the most. That's great. And others will catch it on YouTube. So just to say, we will be on again next Wednesday, 20th of May at noon. Don't forget to leave your comments and questions below or in the YouTube replay so that I can pick those up. Or, of course, if you're joining us in the Troubled Kids group, or you're not watching it live this week but you want to watch it live next week, find the Troubled Kids group in Facebook, ask to join it. I'll click you through. We're over 1,000 members now, so it's a lovely thing to be part of. Please be active in the group, guys. There's far too much of me in this group and not enough of you lot, so please get in, chip in, and add to the resources that are available to folk. So there we go. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe, and thank you ever so much for joining. There is all the links in the description below. Thank you. It's a real privilege to talk to you all. Keep up the great work. Kids need you. Most of all, look after yourselves. I've had enough. I'm going to do an hour now and then knock off because I'm stressed out of my box with sat in front of this screen. So bless you. I will see you next Wednesday and speak to you on the inside. Cheers.